through the front doors and not to use that side door, okay? And the drivers will pull their vehicles up as close as they can, bearing in mind there are some parked cars out there, which they may ask people to move so they can get into the city. Okay? Sit back and enjoy.
Can you hear me without this, or do I need this? Ready with the back? Wave at me if you can hear me. I need to use it. Okay.
Turn it on. Go on.
Is that better now? Can you hear me clearer now? Yeah. Good, okay. Right, good evening to you, not good afternoon. As Ray quite rightly says, on PIP Introduction Day, very auspicious time. I'm going to talk on the Department of Work and Pension side of things, give you an idea of the criteria and what the benefit is all about. We've got our colleagues who've already mentioned, Matos here, who'll talk more about the assessment side of things. So when I get to the assessment part here, I will actually flick through those slides rather than go all the way through. So I'll be stealing Phil's thunder like Ray almost stole mine a minute ago when he started. I thought he was going to do the whole presentation. Thank you, Ray. So, those are the things we're going to look at. The introduction of it, we know it starts today. The similarities and differences, because there are both for disability living allowance and the personal dependence payment. The components and the eligibility. So the assessment criteria I'm going to skip over, and then just lastly, passporting and other benefits that may be affected by that. So, we are the 8th of April 2013, and PIP started today. Phil tells me, stealing his thunder now, no new claims were actually lodged today. So there's a start. So none have actually started yet. Ray's been reading my slides because, as you just heard, DLA started in 1992. And the background to personal independence payment is there actually are 70% of existing disability living allowance claims that have never been re-examined since they were started in the 90s. So rather than create a DLA review procedure, the personal independence payment was brought about with a great deal of consultation. I mean, MS Society is involved in the consultation. There were 50 organisations, about 500 individual people were involved in the background to it all. Are any of you familiar with RAID, Richmond Information Disability? They were certainly there, and their Teresa, bless her, was involved in that, and she did a lot of work around that, and this is what we've got as a part of that. These are the similarities and the differences that we have. Disability living allowance and the personal dependence payment, they're both going to be in-work benefits. They're both going to be non-taxable and non-means tested, so nothing's going to change on that score at all. What will be changing is the qualifying period. So whereas there's now a 3-month qualifying period, an ongoing 9-month prospective period for someone to be entitled to the personal independence payment. So we're looking at a condition that lasts for about a year. That was originally going to be a 6-month qualifying period, but it was then changed down to 3. So we've talked about the assessment criteria. It'll be a face-to-face consultation, and again, I'll let Phil mention that to you. I think the important thing to be aware of with personal independence payment is nobody will have a lifetime award. So when you go for the assessment for the new claim, you will not get an immediate lifetime award, indefinite awards. Some of you will already have them at the moment. When you're awarded your personal independence payment, it will not be for life. It will be an ongoing period of time, potentially 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years. So there will be no indefinite awards at all. And there is going to be a new reconsideration process, and I'll talk about that towards the end of the presentation, just to give you a bit more of an idea. And those of you that represent organisations may already have heard about that, but I will talk more about that later on. Some of you at the back may not be able to see this, but this is actually the components and eligibility for personal independence payment. I'm sure you're aware already it's going to have 2 components, the same as disability living allowance. The first one will be a daily living, and the second will be a mobility. What you may not know is there are just going to be the 2 rates, the enhanced rate and the standard rate. So whereas at the moment we have 5 rates of disability living allowance, we're now just going to have 2 rates for the daily living, enhanced and standard, and 2 rates of mobility, the same as we do now. Again, the enhanced and the standard. And you'll see there, and Ray's already mentioned, it is a points-based system. So to get any benefit at all, you need to get at least 8 points for both or either components. And then for the enhanced rate, it's 12 points or more again. And again, I appreciate you probably can't see these because they are rather small. We're actually looking here at the assessment criteria and the point scheme that's attached to it. Do you want me to read them through, or can you mostly see what they are? Can't see a thing. Okay. Most of them you'll be familiar with because they talk about preparing food, taking nutrition, monitoring health conditions, washing and bathing, managing toiletry needs, dressing and undressing, communicating verbally, reading and understanding signs, symbols and words, engaging with people face to face, and then the last one, which is very new, is making budgetary decisions. Budgetary decisions. So all around money. So there's 10 of those, and then mobility, as you'll be expecting, would be planning and following a journey and moving around. Because something about the mobility component is it isn't just about a physical incapacity. It could also be a mental health issue, where somebody couldn't plan a simple journey from A to B without quite a considerable amount of help. So it isn't just around a physical mobility issue. So you can see again there, the points can obviously be cumulative. So if someone gets 8 points on their taking nutrition, straight away they would be getting the standard rate. If they got another 4 points or less or more from anywhere else, they would all build towards the 12 points for the enhanced component. So it is a mix and match system. Most of the points there, as you can see, are 8, so I won't go through all of them. But there are ones are 12, automatically communicating verbally, and the managing budgetary decisions is actually a 6. And then the mobility is up to 12 for both. Now, one of the most important things about the personal independence payment and the change is, I've been going on for years, and Ray would have heard me say this possibly, with disability living allowance, it was the care that people needed, not the care they got. With personal independence payment, it's how the condition impacts you and your day-to-day living. And that's the important thing to remember, because that's the big change. It's more what you can do rather than what you can't do as well. We'll go into that in a bit more detail later on. So it's an objective decision. It's still going to be what people can do on their own without any help, but as I say, what they can do rather than what they can't do. Again, can you see those? Those of you in the back possibly can't see these. It's just to give you an idea of some of the point scores that are involved when the actual assessment criteria is being completed. This one is actually the taking nutrition one. For those of you, are there any people from organisations here who advise people, carers and people with multiple sclerosis, or are you mainly service users? Mainly service users, a couple of them, all right. Because there is another session, I just should have mentioned this maybe then if I do it now, Ray, before I forget. We're actually running more in-depth training sessions for people who actually advise people, and Ray will need to be aware of this, he probably knows already, where we'll go through a lot more information with you about this, and we can look at all of these criteria, and we can also show you a DWP toolkit, where you can actually get a lot more information around this. But that's mainly for the advisors. That's not singling out anybody else, but it's mainly for the use of the advisors. So if you want to do that, if you want any more information, see me by the end of the day, and I'll take your details and we can arrange that for you. So this is actually a fixed slide presentation that I've got, just looking at around some of the descriptors, and the points you can see there start at 0 and end up at 10. And in between you've got 2 lots of 2, a 4 and a 6. So there's a lot more information. This is just the one descriptor out of the 10 that we looked at to begin with.
Could you just go through?
I can do. I've only got my time on. I'm just a bit concerned about timing guys there. Can I leave this one and go on to one of the other ones that might be more relevant to you, if you wouldn't mind, when we talk about the actual conditions? Because this one is just really a very bog standard example of how the points will be attributed. There'll be a little bit more information later that might be more useful for you, if I may.
We should be able to, if you send this to us, we can send it to members.
Fine, yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I can do that, no worries. Yeah. There are more to come, as I say. So the actual assessment principles are individual objectives. We've done this already. What am I doing? In the wrong way. There we go. That's what I want to see. I want that one. The reliability. So when we're looking at the actual assessment criteria and the form completion, we're looking at reliability and whether it can be done safely. So safety is still there as it was previously, to the necessary standard, and repeatedly and in a timely manner. So I can see a lot of you will be looking at those last two, I'm sure, and thinking it sometimes can take you a long time to do something, get up, to get somewhere, to get back from somewhere. So all of that will be relevant to you. You'll see there at the moment this is not in regulation, so it isn't actually law, but it will be part of the case manager decision makers' information they will look at. Please.
Have the amendment regulations not been passed then?
I've not been sent those yet. I know they're going through at the moment, but they haven't come through to me yet.
Because the government did concede that they will put it in regulations, didn't they?
It was, but it hasn't. This is why that note is on there. At this moment in time, I don't think it's quite got there. This presentation was sent to me, I think, a couple of weeks ago now.
Right.
And I checked this morning, literally, and there wasn't an amended one, because I've been using this today as well, earlier on. Hasn't been changed yet.
Because the draft regulations are on the website, aren't they? But they haven't been, haven't been passed.
Hasn't been passed yet.
The
draft is there. Yeah, but obviously until it becomes law, we don't incorporate it into the presentation.
Sure
No, that's fine. No
yet.
problem. No problem at all. This is where I think you might find it a bit more useful, because there's actually some examples here of how the points will be attributed. So we have an example here of somebody walking 50 metres. They couldn't do it more than once a day. So basically they walk 50 metres or more, but after that they can't do it again. Whereas somebody who could walk 20 metres or less, but make you do it once or twice, they would look at these descriptors particularly, and they would say that the one that E, which is cannot stand and move more than 1 metre or 20 metres, would be applicable, and that would then give somebody 12 points on the mobility side of things. So they would then get the enhanced rate. There are others in between, as you can see there. So the first one is cannot move more than 200 metres. Second one is cannot move between 50 and 200 metres. And then 20 to 50. And then we're getting down to between 20 and 50 again. And then the last two, as we just said, less than the 20 metres or not at all. And then we've got another one here, which is the fluctuating condition, which again Ray mentioned earlier on. A little bit more involved. So we're looking at the percentage of days that people would need to be assessed on. And looking at this one, it could be two prescriptors, could be 50% of the time. Another one could be, I think, is it 70% of the time? Yeah, 70% of the time. So the two that are the 50% would actually be disregarded, and we would use E, which is the one that's 70% of the time, which would actually just give somebody 3 points in this particular example. So obviously they would need more from other criteria to qualify for the enhanced or standard payment. Is that making more sense to you now? Yep, that's what I was hoping it would, going on to this. And then I think this is the last example we've got here. This again is the reverse of what we've just had, where we've got somebody here who, this is the washing and bathing one, isn't it? Yeah. So where the B, which is needs aid to help wash or bath, is 20% of the time, and then D is 30% of the time. So it needs assistance to be able to wash either hair or below the waist. And then E is 5%, which is the needs assistance to be able to use a bath or shower. Because D is the higher percentage, it's actually D with the 2 points that is awarded rather than E or B. So all this is, we'll send this all out through to, it's not a problem, right? It can go out to you, no problem at all. It's not, the notes can't go, the notes aren't in there anyway. But I can send this to you and it can go out to people so you can study it in a bit more detail.
If you could walk, go back to your mobility slide, if you can walk the 100 metres, but it's going to take you 20 minutes and you need frequent stops on the route, is that
Put it all down. I mean, I'm not a decision maker, as you know, but any information like that would need to be put down. Definitely.
Right, okay, because I mean, one would hardly